Hey horror fans, welcome back to Room 237 and coming at you with, I guess, kind of a special review. This is a movie that I've known about probably about 8 years now. Discovered it back in 2012 where I was looking for not only foreign horror films but also just the most sick, twisted, depraved, whatever I could find. And of course this movie was on everybody's list. But I've never got around to seeing it, could never find it. The store that I go to usually has the Criterion collection, which is awesome. Of course, they've been closed because of Corona. And, I finally just got around to ordering it. It finally came in today. I finally got to see it for the first time. I'm kind of shocked to say it's been this long and I'm finally seeing this movie. But it is Pier Pasolini's Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom. Part of the Criterion collection. Wonderful collection. The Criterion really does do a good job with their stuff. Fortunately, there's a lot of stuff I can't show in this, but it is an Italian film, and I'm not gonna put it with my Italian playlist, because that's all giallos, exploitation films, and whatnot. This one is Italian speaking, so I may just put this in the foreign playlist, because it's not dubbed in English. But this movie has always just been surrounded by controversy. It's known as one of the most controversial films of all time, and for a good reason. Of course, it's based upon a book of the same name by the Marquis de Sade. Sade sounds better, but the word sadism comes from it, so Marquis de Sade. I usually say Sade. And what this is you have these 4 libertines during Nazi-occupied Italy, 1944, who they take this group of adolescent boys and girls and they take them to their mansion, where they subject them to 3 months, 120 days of just the most depraved, sick, psychological, physical, emotional, just abuse. Physical abuse, sexual abuse overall. The whole thing is sexual. Humiliation. And this movie isn't just another August Underground or a Serbian film. People want a Serbian film. People want to give the credit that this movie's had or deserved. Sort of the same credit. It's an artistic film trying to say something. It's a political film. No. Serbian film, they can say that all they want. Anybody can say that all they want. A Serbian film is just a sick film. It's shock value porn. That's all it is. This, you could almost say the same thing. It says 1976. It came out in 75. Pier Pasolini was murdered, I believe, late 75. I don't think he made it to 76. But yeah, he was murdered November 2nd, 1975. Pasolini, I believe he was openly gay. His films were very controversial. And there's a lot of rumors around his death. It was after this film. A lot of people believe it was because of this film. I wouldn't be surprised. A lot of people, could have been an angry fan, an angry person, could have been political. because he was also a very outspoken activist for his political views. Some people think the government themselves had something to do with it. It's a big mystery. And there are times where this doesn't feel like a horror film. It feels like an extreme drama because the horror lies within the abuse these kids go through. But it's labeled as a period horror art film, which is another thing. Serbian film, Martyrs, Human Centipede, they're known as artsy or art horror films. I wouldn't go that far with them. You know, they might have extreme ideals, but I don't see them as art house films. I can say that with this because at least there is some sort of artistic merit I can give it. It does have very raw cinematography, acting. You really buy that these four guys are just the most corrupted by wealth and power. That's basically one of the running themes of the film, is that wealth and power can corrupt you, take away your innocence. And I guess that's what the children symbolize, is the innocence, and how they're literally just fucking that right out of them. There's not too much I can say about it that hasn't been said already. It's considered one of the first extreme horror films. I mean, there really isn't anything of its kind prior, since there's been a bunch. Never as impactful, I don't think. I mean, Serbian film has more twisted shit, but it's really just a shock film. I'm sorry. That's just all I see when I think of a Serbian film. Well made for its budget, I'll give it that. But, you know, this has really just stumped critics because they see it for its artistic beauty, but it's paralleled with just the horrific shit that goes on in it. And I mean, it's broken up into segments, 4 segments. There's the Chamber of Hell. It's sort of based around Dante's Inferno because they keep going deeper and deeper into hell, essentially. And it says chamber. I think chamber and circle is used interchangeably, so I'm just gonna say circle. Circle of hell, circle of obsession, circle of shit, and circle of blood. I mean, it starts off with them rounding up the kids. They make them undress in front of them so they can look at their bodies. Sort of like with my Serbian film review, I'm going to put a warning here for both spoilers and graphic content. So, if you haven't seen this, or just if this is not your kind of film, I would suggest continuing to watch, because I am going to go into the details. Because, like films like a Serbian film, it's one of those movies that I think people watch for those reasons. They want to see how depraved it is. In some ways, I guess I could say it's even more depraved than a Serbian film, because the 4 libertines, the president, the bishop, the judge, and the magistrate, the ones who are behind this, and then sort of their higher class socialites as well, they do it with glee. They do it because they love it. It's what they live to do. You could say that about a Serbian film, like the director within, like the character of the director, but it doesn't get the point across as much as this. And do I think this is a sick film? Absolutely. Was I shocked or desensitized? Of course not. That happened eons ago. But I still felt the power of it during some scenes. And, they give them the rules, like, at 6 o'clock, you're to do this. If any man and woman is found having sex together, they'll be punished by a loss of a limb. Anyone who practices religion will be punished by death. All this stuff. And they pretty much start out their day with, there's this one character. She's essentially the storyteller. And well, actually, it says here that it's not a judge, it's a duke. So I guess it's not a judge. Someone did mention themselves as a judge. Storytellers. Castelli. No, the first one is Vicari. She talks about how she was molested as a young child by various people, but she tells the story in glee. Another one, Maggie, she's the coprophiliac who has a thing for shit. And then there's another one, Castelli, who is a prostitute who tells jokes during her stories. And during these stories, the four men can grab any child they wish, fondle them, rape them, humiliate them. They have a group of boys with them that they call studs, who... Actually, I didn't really finish my spoiler disclaimer. If you are into messed up films, or even art house films, have a little bit of a stronger stomach, I would recommend this. I do think there is some artistic merit to this. More so than other fucked up, depraved movies get credit for. Like, I enjoyed this more than I did Serbian film, Human Centipede. I'd probably say I enjoyed it more than Martyrs, even though I liked Martyrs. I definitely feel, and not just for the bourgeoisie set design and costumes, like, it looks like that kind of period piece, but it's really not. Really hard film to review. I struggled during Serbian film because it's one of those movies a lot of people know about. How far do I have to go into the story? But also, this film has just been analyzed and talked about so much. Like, talks of nihilism and philosophy by Nietzsche. I mean, hell, at one point, even this book is brought up. So there's a lot of shit to talk about and analyze and interpret. It's almost its own video, aside from just a film review. I'm going to do my best. And this will start possibly a marathon, because I'm going to do a collection video of all the sick, twisted, horrific films that I have. Lots I don't have. Many I don't have. But I was waiting on this to come in first because, like my Italian film collection, you can't do something like that without Cannibal Holocaust. You can't do a sick, twisted, depraved film collection without this. This sort of is the godfather of it all. But anyway, studs are the boys with the largest penises. They were chosen. But they also have, like, boy soldiers who, give the arm of the law around the place. And I mean, just subjected to numerous kinds of rape and humiliation. One guy forces one girl to piss while he pisses. The circle of shit. They talk about masturbation and stimulation. So this one stud, off in the distance of this big room, beautiful shots too, by the way. There's some shots in certain rooms, like before they fix the marriage between the two that have gotten off by someone masturbating them. You know, it almost looks like a Kubrick shot. You know, symmetrical, very wide shot in this big open room. They're forced to marry. People within the wedding, you know, they're all forced to stand naked. Then they all get fondled and raped. But each of the four men, whenever there's something going on, they tell someone else to fuck them. Yeah, up the ass. Then they have the circle of shit, which is probably the most famous, you know, probably like the newborn scene in a Serbian film. That's probably what this is, where they all have, you know, fine dishes. They're all dressed up, but they're forced to eat shit, and you see it. And a big heaping platter of turds, all different shapes and sizes, because they just fixed a marriage between one of the studs who's wearing like a veil or whatever, and you know, you see him with like a fork trying to feed him, get shit all over his face. Everyone's almost puking. It you can almost smell it while you're watching it. I mean, it's not as outrageous as in like Human Centipede 2, which that's quite ridiculous. Here, I guess it's the classy way to eat shit, but it's still quite effective. And I mean, it shows the spirits of the children being broken down more and more and more as it goes on. And eventually, you know, people do start to kill themselves. I mean, then there's another wedding between the four men and whom they've chosen, and the men dress up, you know, like to period of women. But, you know, the wedding is towards the end of the movie, so it's just so somber. They force the children to laugh, but they can't. They get someone to tell jokes. And of course, then which at first, the way this happens, I kind of didn't really understand this part, the opening of the film. Duke, Bishop, Magistrate, and President, they all marry each other's daughters. And the daughters are always naked, which I missed if the daughters were actually part of this whole film or if they were just naked during the wedding or whatever. So that part kind of went over my head. And they kidnap 9 of each gender. Some of them look really young, which that's another thing I'll give this film credit for. I like to think everyone was 18, but if any of them were not and they were younger, no pun intended, the balls that this movie had to put that in there. I mean, I know the film in the 90s, kids, they were actually kids, but you didn't really see a whole lot. You know, you didn't see everything in that film, but this one you pretty much do. And just children by this point are just dropping like flies. And, it gets up to the very end when the ones who were left are taken outside to pretty much be tortured and executed. Of course, they sit there with their binoculars. They're branded. There is one famous poster and cover of the movie where this kid's held. They pull his tongue out and they cut it off. A couple of them are spared. Like, one betrayed this one girl, but was also very submissive, so of course he's allowed to live. One other one's allowed to live. Hanging, scalping, burning, having their eyes cut out, all at the end of the film. That's pretty much how they liquidate what happened, is they get rid of them that way. And sort of one of the more haunting images is, because you do get beautiful music throughout the film that really helps the setting and the aesthetic. Two of their boy soldiers start dancing together. They do a waltz. And one asks the other one the name of his girlfriend back home, which he tells him. And it's just like, these are all normal people. They all function normally in society. But, and this really was just like a long period of just anything goes. Life goes back to normal after this. And it's all run by just these four men who have so much wealth and power that they made this happen just because they wanted to. They do have sick, fucked up desires, but they're wealthy enough to make it happen. And I mean, there's nudity and rape aplenty throughout the entire film. I mean, I would literally be here talking scene for scene. And as far as analyzing it goes, that's a whole separate video because there is a ton to look at in this. Myself, though, with my review, I do get the art house feel. I do see it as an art house film. It does have its artistic merits. Even in that regard. Sort of, which, talking about art house films, but film is art anyway, so it's like they're levitating over the other ones. I liked it way more than films it's usually ranked with, like Serbian Film, Martyrs, Human Centipede. I thought this one actually had something to say and was artistic while doing it, while being shocking and disturbing at the same time, which is not easy to do. It's not easy to make a classy art house film with all this disturbing shit around it and get both points across. And for years I've seen Serbian film get the love and the notices that this one has and probably deserves. Serbian film doesn't have shit on this. It really doesn't. More shocking stuff, okay, but this is a much better film. And I could say I enjoyed Salo or the 120 Days of Sodom. I did. It was disturbing. It was fucked up. Wasn't exactly pleasant, but I could say I enjoyed it. And my first ever Criterion collection edition. They did a hell of a job with it. I should have watched some of the documentaries. But yeah, I enjoyed this. I thought it was just as fucked up as everyone says. Uh, I've seen more fucked up, obviously, but those films don't deserve the credit that this one does, I believe. And now I finally have what's considered the first extreme horror film. But yeah, Salo, 120 Days of Sodom. Definitely one of a kind. Thank you for watching.